Hello everyone and welcome back to another deck guide, this time featuring the new Radiant Typhoon archetype for the Genesys format. It's kind of the Wild West for this brand new format, and I wanted to see if we could make one of Yu-Gi-Oh's newest and strangest decks work in it. So if you want your Mystical Space Typhoon to negate, then let's get started. The Typhoons are built around one of the oldest jokes in Yu-Gi-Oh!, MST negating. All of our cards search MST, we gain bonuses for using it, including a multi-use Omni Negate, and for that matter we also just get benefit for using quick play spells in general. All of our level 3s can summon from hand for free if we either have MST in our grave or the opponent has no spell traps, so they always special for free going first, and we can hopefully open MST which turns them on going second. First up is Eldam, which on summon can search an MST or any Typhoon monster. Swen does the same thing but searches a spell trap. Megala is the first thing that locks us. It summons itself like the others, but then if you activate an MST or a quick play, you can summon any other name from deck. Then you get locked into wins for the rest of the turn. You could play 2 or 3 Megalas if you want to, but she's the most situational of the 3s, and she's very searchable, so I'm running just the one. Krosea is our only level 6, but is probably the best card in the deck, second only to MST itself, of course. She summons from hand in a new chain after you use any quick play, archetypal or not. On summon, she searches an MST and any other Typhoon card as well, which is just everything we could want. She also just can't be destroyed as long as the opponent has no back row, which is pretty good since we don't do much with the extra deck and we'll just leave her on board anyways. We have 2 level 9s which act as our boss monsters. They both summon from hand if we use a quick play, or from grave if we use specifically MST. Once Vararoon is on field, she's a monster negate as long as you have an MST in the grave, and if you have 2, it becomes a monster negate and destroy. 3 may look kinda weird, but we can't search everything in one combo, so we don't mind opening it. And we do some combos on our draw phase that summon her out for protection before we can get drolled, which is very, very cool and a unique thing that this deck can do. Then we have Phonics, which is the less important boss, but still very good. When we activate a quick play, it can shuffle 2 opponents' cards back into the deck. Normally we want to open Vararoon and search or Foolish Burial Phonics so we have both of them online on the opponent's turn. Then we're on to our spells. Each has 2 modes, and you can do each mode once per turn. All of them can search MST itself, and all of them can set themselves if destroyed by MST. That's how we get it in the grave when we're going first. Activate a quick play, chain MST to pop, and reset the quick play, and it still resolves the effect it was trying to while it was on the chain. Chant's other effect searches a low-level monster. Summoning Technique sends a monster from deck to grave, so one of our boss monsters. And then Vision draws 2, then you have to either discard a Typhoon card or your whole hand if you can't. We need a critical mass of these, and Vision is the worst one since it's a net neutral and just helps us find the right pieces. So I'm playing 3, 3, and 2. Then of course we're playing 3 MSTs to trigger things and pop back row, and our one trap is Radiant Typhoon Mandate. This does a whole lot for us. First up, it lets us shuffle quick plays from the grave back into the deck to draw a card and give our monsters 300 attack and defense for the turn. Cool for generating advantage in a longer game, but more importantly, once per chain while this is on the field, we can activate an MST to negate an opponent's card permanently. This makes any copies that we can keep as part of our end board into even better disruption. And lastly, if you pop it, it also sets itself, same as the spells. Then we have 14 slots for non-engine. Our engine takes 0 points so far, so we can play just a ton of good haymakers, really. Gamma's pricey, but because we use a ton of quick plays before we ever even summon a monster, it's absolutely worth the investment. Driver is a necessary evil to run Gamma, and that's 45 points right there. Then Droll Rex combo decks and only costs 5 a pop. Ghost Ogre is also only 5, and we use it as part of our Gamma payoff combo that we'll talk about in a second. I'm playing 2 extras because it's free for some reason. We barely use the extra deck. You could run a 3rd, but I was having trouble like cutting anything, and I don't know, you could just run 41 if you wanted to. Super Poly is a quick play, so it can trigger some of our high levels to summon, and also just breaks boards for 10 points a pop. And then similarly, Book of Eclipse is a board breaker that's a quick play, and only costs 5, which brings us to around 100, all spent on some of the scariest non-engine in the game. Before we get into the extra deck, I want to talk a little bit about these cards in the sideboard. These are just other good free non-engine that you can play main or side. Vesper Gearsu is very weird, but it's a quick play and it hoses go wide combo decks. Shared Rides similarly can be brought in against decks that search a lot to get a cut of the action. Then lastly, Ultimate Slayer is a good free board breaker, and if you want to run it, you have to rearrange your sideboard a little bit. Malong and Aggregator are just good options to use alongside it. And then I probably should have put down here, you can be running Cosmic Cyclones as well. I think those are very, very good in this format. But we have the 3 main deck MSTs. Probably throw those in the sideboard, not the actual main deck, and just bring them in against, Mimighoul, Odeon, all that good stuff. Then, first up in the extra deck, we have our Gamma payoffs. So this is going to look a little bit weird, but let me explain. Dragon Drive is our 8 of choice, and when summoned you can pay 600 to search our Ghost Ogre. Then you can Zodiac Jam Fever over the Dragon Drive, which becomes a monster negate and destroy after you use the Ghost Ogre, or you can just attach and pay 600 to draw a card instead. So Gamma nets you 1 disruption and a card draw, or 2 disruptions, which is pretty damn good. As for stuff we normally make, we can only really do rank 3 Wind XZs, so there's not a ton of options, but Totem Bird is a spell trap negate, and we don't mind that at all. Similarly, Cicada King is a monster negate. Then we have Garura and Mudragon for Super Poly, and if you're running Ultimate Slayer, you can send Garura as your fusion target to draw a card. We run 2s and 3s of everything, so we hopefully don't banish every copy of something off of Extravagance. You could also run more Super Poly targets, but honestly, I'm not sure what else would be good since the format is so new. And that's it for the deck profile, guys. Let's go do some combos. Okay, this first one's basically just to show you this isn't really a 1-card combo deck. You do have exactly one 1-card combo that you can do with any copy of Eldam, Swen, or Chant, but it's not very impressive. So we just special summon the Eldam, and that lets us search the other one, so Swen can get Chant, which can get to Eldam. That gets you both of them either way. And then the last card in the chain searches MST, and you can put the 2 bodies into either Totem Bird or Cicada King, whichever one you're more afraid of. That gives you 1 negate on either spell traps or monsters, and the MST for a pop. Not the scariest end board in the world, but it's something. It would be impressive to have to do this in this deck, though, because it is built in such a way that you should always have a 2-card combo. So let's look at what those look like. Okay, so now we have Eldam and a quick play spell. The lines do vary based on which quick play you have, but like summoning technique works, and there's combos you can do with all of them that are pretty similar. So let's go ahead and get started. We can special summon the Eldam from hand, and then we can search Megala, which can special summon, and at this point we have Megala on the board, so we want to use summoning technique to dump Phonics. That triggers Megala to summon Krosea from deck, and then we can do the Chant into MST combo, which are the 2 cards we search off of Krosea. That is going to let us search another monster, Swen in this case, and then pop the Chant to reset it and trigger Phonics to summon himself back. Then we're going to summon out the Swen, grab another MST, go into one of our rank 3s, then we can pass the turn, and on the opponent's turn activate the Chant again, or MST if we need to do that first, but I like to do this in the draw phase because it gets us our other boss monster available via Megala's effect. So now we have, instead of just the Totem Bird and an MST like last time, we have Totem Bird, MST, follow up, an indestructible body, a monster negate, and then 2 shuffles, which is just infinitely better, but you have to have a quick play and a monster. Cool, cool. And then last up is a similar combo, but it's with Krosea and any quick play spell. So on draw phase, actually, which is a really cool thing about this deck, we can activate Chant to go grab Megala, which triggers Krosea to summon, which can go grab us both the trap and an MST. Then we have to go to main phase, but we still can't be drolled because we're going to go Megala, and then use the trap, set the trap face down, use MST to pop the trap because it'll come back anyways, but that will trigger Megala to summon from deck. Summons Eldam, Eldam can add Swen. This is when we can finally be drolled, but we can still summon out the Swen even if so. Here we can grab Typhoon as well. Then we can turn the 2 into Totem Bird. So even under droll, the only thing you lose is the 1 MST, which to be fair does kind of hurt on this board. But then on the opponent's turn, we can turn on the Mandate. That gives us an Omni Negate when we use the MST, which will also trigger Megala to summon one of our level 9 boss monsters from deck. We don't get both with this combo, but we do get the Trap online, which is quite powerful in and of its own right. Cool? Cool. And we're back with closing thoughts on our Magnificestorm deck. So the thing that stands out the most to me about this deck, other than the obvious gimmicks, is the fact that it's pretty simple to play as a control deck. It kind of reminds me of like early day Branded, where yeah, you have a little bit of a combo to get to one big boss, but you're not doing too much, you're not going crazy, and then you just have follow-up and stuff. Kind of reminds me of that, and I kind of like that style of deck. It's a good thing to have in the game, along with like Genesys. For new players, I think it's important to have good options, still made, modern, good playable decks that just like aren't that hard to play, and this deck kind of feels like that. The weirdest thing to wrap your head around is the fact that you can often do much of your turn during the draw phase, and that is good to do so you don't get drolled. Because this deck is very vulnerable to droll otherwise. We search a ton just to set up like the few interruptions that we do manage to set up most of the time. We do a lot of searching to get there, so being able to do that in the draw phase to protect most of our combo from droll is very, very nice. Also, I want to say that it's very well positioned in Regenesis right now, just because a lot of the top decks in Regenesis are very back row reliant. So just like being able to blow their cards up on draw phase and like get rid of their back row before they actually get a chance to use it. You know, Odeon's considered the best deck and it only can negate really during the main phase. So like you start throwing MSTs out and you're either going to force out their one big Omni Negate that they want to save, or they just lose a bunch of their actual interaction before you ever get started. That's pretty cool. So yeah, I think it's pretty well positioned. And the other thing I want to note is that people have been experimenting primarily with this deck with like the runic quick plays as well. Just like as extra benefit, you do that and you get more card draw, but you have less room for hand traps and things. I don't know. It makes you, I feel like that makes you better going first and worse going second. So that's kind of up to you. If you want to play the runic quick plays and draw a million cards while you're doing your normal stuff anyways, I'm not going to stop you. Maybe that ends up being the better version, but I like pure because it gives me a fighting chance going second. But anyways, that's going to do it for this one, guys. I hope you liked it, and I hope to see you next time. Bye-bye.